Chapter 1, Arrival at Ravenswood. Amelia Cartwright had always been fascinated by the macabre. As an archivist for historical properties, she was accustomed to dusty attics and forgotten relics, but nothing had prepared her for Ravenswood Manor. Perched on a windswept cliff overlooking a restless sea, the mansion was a hulking structure of blackened stone, its spires piercing the sky like skeletal fingers. It had stood abandoned for over a century, its history shrouded in whispers of curses and disappearances. When the Historical Society tasked Amelia with cataloging Ravenswood's artifacts, she eagerly accepted. Yet, as she crossed the threshold into the dimly lit foyer, a shiver coursed through her. The house exhaled an icy breath, and the faint scent of sea brine and decay lingered in the air. Her first task was to document the basement archives, a labyrinth of rooms buried beneath the house. Armed with a flashlight and her notebook, Amelia descended the narrow staircase, unaware of the horrors that awaited her. Chapter 2, The Silent Cries. The basement was colder than the rest of the house, the stone walls slick with moisture. Rows of ancient cabinets lined the room, their contents long forgotten. But as Amelia began to sort through brittle papers and dusty ledgers, she noticed something strange, the faint sound of crying. At first, she dismissed it as the wind, but the sound grew louder, echoing through the halls like the lament of a child. "Hello?" Amelia called, her voice trembling. The crying stopped. For a moment, there was silence, then a whisper so faint it barely reached her ears. "Help me." Amelia's flashlight flickered. The air grew heavy, pressing against her chest. She followed the sound to an old wooden door at the end of the corridor. It was locked, but the crying seemed to emanate from the other side. Her heart pounded as she searched the room for a key, eventually finding one hidden beneath a loose floorboard. With trembling hands, she unlocked the door. Inside, the room was barren except for a small wooden chair in the center. Hanging from the ceiling was a single, ancient bell, its surface tarnished with time. As Amelia stepped closer, she felt a wave of nausea. Scratched into the walls were hundreds of markings, tally marks etched by a desperate hand. Chapter 3, The Bell's Toll. Amelia couldn't shake the unease that clung to her after discovering the room. That night, she slept fitfully in one of the upstairs bedrooms, haunted by the echo of the crying child. At midnight, the silence of the house was shattered by the sound of the bell. Its mournful toll reverberated through the walls, each chime heavier than the last. Amelia bolted upright, her pulse racing. She hurried to the basement, convinced that someone had broken in, but when she reached the room, the bell was still. The chair was gone, and the air was suffused with the faint scent of burned wood. As she turned to leave, she saw them, faint handprints smeared across the walls, as though someone had clawed their way out. "Help me," the voice came again, louder now, desperate. Amelia stumbled back, her flashlight dropping to the ground. In its flickering light, she saw the shadow, a tall, spindly figure with hollow eyes and a twisted grin. It loomed in the doorway, motionless yet menacing. The figure vanished when the flashlight died completely. Chapter 4, The Curse of Ravenswood. Determined to uncover the truth, Amelia delved into the manor's history. Hidden among the ledgers, she found a diary belonging to a woman named Lillian Ravenswood, the last known occupant of the house. Lillian's writings told of a tragedy. Her son, Henry, had been accused of witchcraft by the townsfolk. He was locked in the basement, his cries ignored, and left to die. They hung the bell to torment him, Lillian wrote. Each toll marked another hour of his suffering. His spirit lingers, bound to the bell. He whispers for salvation, but the shadows that took him are stronger now. Amelia realized the shadow she'd seen wasn't Henry, it was something darker, something that had consumed him. As she read the final entry, the house groaned, and the bell began to toll again. The sound reverberated through her chest, filling her with dread. Chapter 5, Breaking the Echo. Amelia knew the bell had to be destroyed, but the task terrified her. Armed with a hammer and lantern, she descended into the basement one last time. The room was suffused with an unnatural darkness. As she approached the bell, the shadowy figure emerged, its hollow eyes fixed on her. "You cannot save him," it hissed. "He is mine." Amelia's hands shook, but she raised the hammer. The shadow lunged, its skeletal fingers grazing her arm, sending a searing pain through her body. She struck the bell, and the sound shattered the air, deafening and terrible. The shadow screamed, its form twisting and dissipating like smoke in the wind. The bell cracked, and with it, the cries ceased. Amelia collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. The room was silent, the oppressive weight lifted. As she climbed the stairs, the first rays of dawn broke through the windows, casting light into the cursed house for the first time in a century. The Historical Society never sent another archivist to Ravenswood. The house remained empty, its secrets buried. But sometimes, on stormy nights, locals claimed to hear the faint toll of a bell, echoing through the cliffs. And so, Ravenswood Manor kept its dark legend alive, a place where shadows lingered and the past refused to rest.